Hey, my name's Luke McLean. Today I really want to just explore a little bit around attention and why our attention's really important. Have you ever been with anyone, even when you're a kid, like reflect back of a time, if you can remember, of a time when you really were talking to someone and they were just with you. You just knew that they were fully invested in what you were saying. And reflecting on how that felt for you to be heard. For me, it's quite significant, and it might not be. You could reflect back on a time in the last week when you've been talking to someone, or you know people that really give you the space to talk. Our presence, the quality of our presence is the quality of our performance. And especially, in this scenario, when we're talking about relationships and connecting with people, when we can quiet the noise of what's got to happen, what's just happened, when we can quiet the noise of judgment, of I know what you're going to say, of comparison, of judgment, of you're not as good as I am, or I know better, those stories, that chatter that continues to spin round in our heads, and we know it does. Just because it can't be seen, it's there. Because it can't be seen, it's often louder than we realise. And there's this buzz, and we don't get to take in what that person's fully saying, or we assume we know what that person's going to say so we can switch off. Or we get good at diluting or separating our attention between what they're saying and what someone else is saying, or looking at our phones. And that's really scary, because training our attention, and attention training's a practice. And we strengthen our ability to do that. So people that do it well have practiced that can be with you fully. Your kids, if you've got kids, and I've got children, it's not the time you spend with them that matters, it's the quality of the time. And the quality of the time is reflective of the quality of your presence with them. That's what it is. They don't want necessarily anything special in that relationship, but you there fully in this moment now. And they're often a lot more present than you are. So they're often a lot more knowing when you've disconnected. Even though you might think that they don't realize it, they know when you're switched off. They know when I've disconnected, and they'll bring me back. So this is really important in our relationship to others. It's also super important, but that's another discussion on our relationship with ourselves. Because when we can quiet the mind, and when we can cut through the bullshit stories we've got about ourselves and the surface layer of ego, we can actually dig a lot deeper. But that's the same with other people. So that's really why it's so important that we can actually bring a quality attention, especially in relationships, especially when we're with people. And if you're a leader, if you're a parent, if you're a partner, how much of your time, how much of your energy, how much of your outcome in life is reflective of a relationship with someone? When things are good, that relationship can often be good, and there's synchronicity and connection. But when you're struggling, when you're not getting the outcome, when you're not getting cut through, how much of it's a relationship issue? How much of it, if you reflected back, is it your lack of spaciousness, your lack of openness, your lack of empathy, compassion, your ability to read the play and the person in that moment and be able to make the right decisions to build the right connection. How much of it's that? I think they're really important questions, because when you ask, have I got the time to meditate? Have I got the time to sit in a mindful practice, to train the attention, to build up the attention muscle? It's just might be enough of a buffer or a reason why you should. Because keeping in mind that everything else, and pretty much everything else, is training our attention to be disconnected. Every time we look at our phone when someone's talking, every time we look at our phone and our mind goes to the phone when we're physically in another space, we're disconnecting attention. Every time our mind drifts to the future, thinks about what's for dinner in a meeting or when we're at our desk, every time we get caught up in past, every time we judge, every time we compare, every time we shut up with fear, we're training the attention to be disconnected from the moment. Every bit of suffering we avert from, or everything we attach to, allows us to not be fully present, open, without judgment, with kind intention, right here, right now. So we're doing a whole heap of training our attention to be disconnected, to be separate, which is, fundamentally why so much of the modern life is a struggle. Like, where depression and anxiety comes from these disconnected stories, that we're treating these stories as if they're real, as if they're true, as if they're absolute, when they're not, when they're just stories. And when we can come back to the present moment fully, to this moment, right, there's very little chance that there's stress, that there's anxiety, that there's problem right here, right now. It comes from what's going to happen in 5 minutes. It comes from what's going to happen in 2 days' time. It comes from worrying about the deadline, worrying about what you just said. Every bit of our anxiety, every bit of our stress that's unhelpful comes from a past or a future thought. Here, it doesn't really exist. Unless we're fully getting chased by something, unless we see a snake or whatever, and then that fear's good anyway. It's good to shut off. It's good to run. It's good to, fight, flight, freeze. That's a positive. But when you're in that stress state constantly about things that are never really going to happen, except in that story we're telling in our minds, which we're creating and giving energy and attention to become real, that's not, that becomes problematic. So our attention and the quality of our presence is crucial and critical. Thank you.